Great. Does anyone have any
Same here.
questions for Soren on anything that he showed? Anything's confusing? You want clarification on anything? Soren, we did have a question. If you are making an app for an entire country that has 3 cities in it, do you need a
Three
separate
cities.
3 cities? Let's say you have 3 cities that are mapped, right?
Okay, yeah.
If you have a country and then you have 3 cities in it and you want to also connect those cities, let's say by like long distance bus, can you make one
Mhm.
GTFS file for an entire country or do you need to make it for each of the cities?
Um, you can create it for each of the city because OTP merges them.
Ah, okay.
OTP is capable of merging GTFS files, so you just need to, um, to create GTFS files or to obtain them from the government of the cities, and then to copy them into the OTP data directory. And to give it then a name, important is then that it contains the name GTFS inside in it because the files are matched against uh, OTP in short terms looks for files with the name GTFS and the file extension .zip in it. So in order to get your GTFS files, you can name, if you have 3 cities and 3 GTFS files, you can name one GTF0.zip,
Mhm.
GTF1.zip, etc. And then you're good to go. But of course, you need to understand of how builder works because by default, the builder, the GTFS builder, create does not expect GTS creation of multiple cities because it's an unusual behavior. So you need to rename some things before you copy things over, and so you don't replace override things actually.
Mm.
But yes, it's possible, but you need a server, which
So do you need a server
um,
for each of the cities then?
no,
Or
no,
oh,
no,
okay.
no. You can have one server, but everything is stored in RAM. uh, s- the complete country then it's stored in RAM. It's not much, but you should ensure that the server is powerful enough to survive that because you need to pay attention also about the other servers like MB, like tile server. Is that extension is also consuming much, so you need to uh, buy a not that cheap server. You need to. It is enough to buy an average server.
Okay.
You need to take that. No, as bigger as the data you have is much more resource you need. The
Right.
general source of SAMP.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uh,
All right. Any other questions? There's another question in the chat. So it says, what requirements do you recommend to install Trufi server? Any hosting company you'll recommend?
I can't recommend any.
DigitalOcean, for example.
Yes, Digital Ocean. Okay. I personally cannot recommend any server hosting server because I recommend you to choose a server hoster which is near to your city or country. It has something to do with speed. Let me explain you something about that. We had Cochabamba, or we run Cochabamba instance. The server we won them in Germany, in I think Freiburg. I don't. I'm not pretty sure. It's in Europe and Germany. So there's pretty much distance between Cochabamba and Bolivia and Germany, as you can probably imagine. And also distance matters when it comes to speed of connection. So if you want to have a speedy connection, you need to I recommend you to buy a server really which is in your geographical area of interest. For example, the city. It can be also inside the city. Then it's probably very fast in connection. Um, because yes, it's um, it's better for users if things is as speedy. And the second question is the requirement. It really depends on your use case. If you don't have enough money, you will need to choose a cheap server, but with the limitation that you probably can only cover one city with it. Um, and the limitation that you uh, cannot run the tile server itself on the server. Instead, you need to use the static map tiles because basically what static map tiles does, it runs the tile server and fetches all the on the fly generated PNG pictures and saves it on the skit. It's this, and then you can copy over the files over to the server and can it just serve it um this is up to you. I cannot make any recommendations. I would recommend you just to use tile server whenever possible. But if you have not enough money or you don't want to enough, don't spend too much money on it. I recommend we'll go with a cheap server. But if you're, and I'm currently working or plan to work on that, if you have, for example, multiple communities in a country, you are also free to share one server inside the country, so you can share the costs and the responsibilities. Then it makes surely a sense to buy a more powerful server and then to use also the services which need more power. So I can give you any numbers or integers for how many gigabytes or how fast it needs to be. Um, you probably will just try out the cheap ones from Digital Ocean and um, Thermal does for Kocha Mama and see if it works for you. Probably it will work for you because your public transportation is not as complex as in my country. Um, but the person better to ask is about that is Samuel because he knows that he can tell you that from a perspective of a developing country. I can only tell you that buy a server which is average in resources, not too less in resources, not too much in resources. So I choose the balance, middle. I recommend you if you have no not to worry about budget to also buy an average server. But it's not easy to answer. It's an individual question with an individual answer. Sorry for that.
Thanks, Soren. I feel like that was very detailed.
Yes, it's necessary, unfortunately, to get
Mm,
into details. It really depends on the use case.
yeah, for sure. All right, any other questions? All right. So thanks, Soren. This was super helpful. I feel like I understand the back end of Trufi like 100 times better than I did 2 hours ago. So I really
Okay,
appreciate you taking the time um, to explain it in such
mm,
depth and so clearly.
you're welcome.